To recap, Matthews keep it open or close it out rankings. Baker Mayfield, good matchup against the Raiders. They've really been struggling against quarterbacks in fantasy all year. He's QB 10. He's open. Kareem Hunt against the Chargers, that's a close. RB 30, expected to lose even more touches to Isaiah Pacheco. Chuba Hubbard against the Eagles, RB 24, a reluctant open. Jawan Jennings, wide receiver 24, keep that one open. Amari Cooper against the Rams, wide receiver 38. The usage is just not there, and that's why he's a close. Darnell Mooney, as much as Kirk Cousins is really, really struggling right now, Mooney's a guy that can get loose over the top of that Minnesota defense. Wide receiver 32, right on the fringe there, but it's an open. Pat Freiermuth against the Browns, tight end 17. That's a close. Lawrence, the only one you were different on was Freiermuth, right?
Yeah.
A desperation tight end play?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, let's jump into the Roto World player news here, and we start with the injuries we're tracking. Romeo Doubs in concussion protocol. We'll get to that one in just a moment. Ladd McConkey's dealing with a knee injury where his coach, Jim Harbaugh, said he's going through some things, so practice will only give us the answers on that one. Keon Coleman with that wrist injury that's kept him out a couple weeks. We'll keep an eye there. Rashad Bateman, we heard John Harbaugh say it's not expected to be long-term, but we'll see the overall ramifications of that one. Jalen Coker's been out with a quad. Dallas Goedert, probably a multi-week injury with the knee. Jake Ferguson in concussion protocol. Let's start with Romeo Doubs here, guys. And before we even have the discussion, we got to hear from Coach Matt LaFleur, who didn't appreciate being questioned about the status of Romeo Doubs.
Is Rome still in the protocol? Is he out now?
He is.
Like these questions, I'm sorry. Is he out?
No, he's not.
He's still in. Okay, thank you.
I answered your first question.
You feel good about him for Thursday?
We'll see. I mean, I have no idea. I'm not a doctor.
That's a grumpy Matt LaFleur. He's usually a pretty smiley guy. He's not appreciating the Romeo Doubs experience.
He's a tad bit upset.
Yeah. Here's the leading pass catchers over a decent stretch here of 5 games for Green Bay. Tucker Kraft, 6 of 78. Romeo Doubs, 3 catches for 54. Christian Watson, 4 for 150 on just 4 targets. Jaden Reed, 5 for 113. Tucker Kraft, 3 for 78 here. Lawrence. I mean, this group is just really hard to figure out.
That what this graphic shows you is that you can't trust any of them on any given day in your fantasy lineup. Now, if Romeo Doubs were to come back to tomorrow for the third, they played an early Thursday night game. It doesn't look like he will, but that would just complicate things even more. And then you look at the fact that Josh Jacobs had 74 receiving yards last week, so you get that in there, then it just makes it even more crazy. So whether Romeo Doubs is in or out, you still can't really trust this Packers receiver group from a fantasy perspective right now.
Matthew, do you have any read on this group? I feel like it's been one of the hardest things in fantasy when we were doing shows all August, and now it has not changed throughout the season.
We've talked about this, that it's going to be really good for Jordan Love, really good for the Packers from an NFL standpoint, but it's just going to be a little bit of pick your poison. I mean, so we saw that according to that graphic, Tucker Kraft was the leading receiver for the Packers last week, but actually, Jaden Reed gets in the end zone twice. So he had a good fantasy start. It is just sort of all over the place. I sort of feel like we've said this, that with the Packers wide receivers and Kraft, although I think Kraft actually has a nice game here. But I think with at least the wide receivers, you sort of have to just trying to pick which week one of these guys is going to go off and which not. It's just, I don't even think Jordan Love knows. I think he's reading the coverage and just seeing who's open and who's going to make a play, right? And some of Watson's stuff comes on broken plays. You can't predict that either. So I feel like if you have one of these guys, you either need to be like, I'm never in or I'm always in. Like you either start Christian Watson every single week or you never start him. Same with Jaden Reed. Same with Doubs when he's active. I don't think you should ever be starting Wicks, unfortunately. It just doesn't feel like he gets, even when in games in which like Doubs is out, it doesn't feel like Wicks gets enough consistent production. We saw that graphic we just showed of all the different leading receivers. You didn't see Wicks' name on there. And it's a shame because I actually really liked Dontavian Wicks as a player. But fantasy-wise, doesn't feel like you can trust him. Lawrence, you mentioned Josh Jacobs is such a great call. They've been running well lately, and they just, as they get colder, as they're going to have games at Lambeau, as they gear up for the playoffs, they want to get Josh Jacobs and that running game going and continue to lean on that in a big way. The other thing I'll say here, in addition to everything else, by the way, they play the Lions. Like, they play the Lions on Thursday night. They play one of the best defenses in the NFL on a short week. So just don't feel great about Jordan Love in this game. You're starting Josh Jacobs. I don't mind Tucker Kraft just because of the position at tight end, but don't feel great about any of them. As long as we're talking injuries real quickly, Connor, I just want to mention Big Show just sent me a text. That's what he likes to do. He sends me texts during the show. He doesn't talk to me. But Big Show never actually talks to me off air, but on the air, he blows up my phone. Which I love about Big Show. That's how all my relationships should be, by the way. Just talk to me while I'm on air. No, real talk, though, for a second. Big Show just sent me a text. Apparently, the Eagles have signed CJ Uzoma. I don't think he has any fantasy impact whatsoever, but it does let you know that maybe they're a little bit more concerned about the Dallas Goedert injury than they may have let on. Initially, it was like, it's minor. Maybe he misses a week. But when you sign another tight end to the active roster, you sort of raise your eyebrows because they have Grant Calcaterra there. They have some other guys there as well. So signing Uzoma gives me a hint that maybe the Dallas Goedert injury is more serious than we may have thought.
The crazy thing about this game on Thursday night, Lawrence, is that, and I agree with Matthew, like Detroit's home, they got a great defense, they're favored. Yeah. Point total is 51.5. Yeah. I guarantee that has to be a big factor of what the Lions offense can do, right? And maybe the Packers will be chasing some points.
Yeah, look, the Packers, I don't think they're going to have that big of trouble even moving the ball, to be quite honest. But they will. I think they will be behind the Lions. And I said this a few weeks ago about this Packers receiving group. Like, the Packers offense is going to do something, right? You just don't know where it's going to come from. Last week, they scored 30 points against the Miami Dolphins. Their two leading receivers was the tight end, Tucker Kraft, and Josh Jacobs, the running back. So that's where things get, confused. So you could see Jordan Love have a decent game. You just don't know if, the receivers will even be included in that, because that's not how their offense rolls.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.